Part 3, here we go. Unsettling messages left behind on tombstones. We want to see some creepy stuff. Let's do it. Number 10, the Red Lady. Weird start. Back in 2015, archaeologists uncovered a 19,000-year-old Paleolithic burial site. This is huge. This was the first ever found on the Iberian Peninsula in northern Spain. It was a big deal. They described the findings as the Red Lady of El Muron. Sounds like something from Game of Thrones. There's remains of a woman who we think was around 35 to 40 years old at the time of her passing, and her remains are beside this block covered in red ochre, and remnants of flowers were also found along with stone artifacts and animal bones. So something was happening. In 2015, archaeologists believe they found her tombstone as well, and it's a limestone block with engravings that make the letter V almost. Now this was a time where cave burials, let alone elaborate burials in general, were extremely rare. She also wasn't tucked away in the corner or anything like that. She was in the middle of this cave where many people lived day to day. Why she had a burial like this, why the carved V was there, what the red ochre surrounding her tomb means, well, we've been trying to figure that out for 19 years. Any guesses? Sound off below. We have no idea. Number 9. 2013 Engraving Scandal. Look, I love to joke about history, especially dark history, but given the chance, I would be extremely respectful around these ancient sites, or like ancient tombs, right? The Luxor Temple in Egypt, for example. It's one of the most cherished places on earth. It's ancient history at its finest. Back in 2013, a young boy named Deng Zhiho scratched his name onto a 3,500-year-old piece of Egyptian artwork. Yeah, he wrote Deng Zhiho was here in Mandarin. Look, I'm not shaming the dude, but if you're gonna do a blank was here, do it in your locker. Do it under your desk. Anything is better than ancient artwork. That's wild. I genuinely feel bad for him. He didn't know better really at the time. His parents apologized publicly, and his school website was even hacked. Yeah, somebody mocked him and the vandalism on the school website. So, I mean, yeah, it's a bad idea, but we don't need to Game of Thrones shame the kid, you know what I mean? I'm sure he learned his lesson right from the start. According to the Egyptian Protection of Cultural Relics law, if you engrave, write, smudge anything at a heritage site, you could face jail time. Yeah, 3 months to a year. Yeah, all that for Taylor was here. I'm like, what? I had no idea, really? Number 8. Ancient Entanglement. We look back to the ancient ruins of Pompeii for this one. It was once a thriving, beautiful city in ancient Rome, and Pompeii was sadly destroyed in 79 CE. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius buried the ancient city in volcanic ash. Excavation, of course, didn't begin until the 18th century, and then after a full century of careful work, the city was then reopened to the public once again. Now we're uncovering ancient restaurants and finding old graffiti. Pompeii in itself is an ancient burial site. Residents left messages on walls of buildings. There's tributes to lost loved ones all over the city. There's one exchange written on a wall about two men named Successes and Severus. Here's the message. Here we go. Successes. A weaver loves the innkeeper's girl named Iris. She, however, does not love him. Still, he begs her to have pity on him. His rival Severus wrote back. He wrote, "Goodbye, envious one. Why do you get in the way? Submit to a handsomer man, and one who is being treated very wrongly and good looking have spoken. I have written all there is to say. You love Iris, but she does not love you." Yeah, it didn't really make a lot of sense. They tried their best. And then a volcano went off, and then nobody settled their beef. See, this is why you don't waste time in love triangles, guys, or entanglements, okay? This is for you. Just let her go, okay? Let her go, dude. Mount Vesuvius could go off any day, and then what? You were too worried about successes your whole life. No more entanglements, okay? That was so 79 CE. Let's move on. Number 7, handcuffs. Okay, we've gotten pretty dark for the last 2 parts, so we'll jazz it up a bit for our midpoint here almost. At number 7, he says, this comes from an anonymous source online. They joined their friend one shift while they were working at a cemetery. Yeah, see, normally you visit friends if they work at bars or movie theaters or, you know, fun places, but cemeteries, I guess that's a good plug to have too, sure. They were both walking around patrolling the cemetery, pretty peaceful gig, all things considered, but all of a sudden they saw something left behind sitting on a tombstone. Yeah, dangling off a statue on the grave were pink, fluffy handcuffs. Just waiting. They laughed at the finding. I mean, of course, teach their own, you're not gonna judge. But to this day, they've never figured out just why somebody would leave handcuffs. They don't know who left them or anything about it. To be fair, they didn't ask a lot of questions afterwards. They were going around town asking about the handcuffs. Out of all the memorabilia, we're gonna go with pink handcuffs also to leave behind, really. They're pink, flowers are pink, it's festive, so yeah, maybe it's a nice one. We'll count that as a nice one. Number 6. Book of the Dead, Chapter 17. And immediately back to dark stuff. Here we go. Just over a year ago, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities announced the discovery of Queen Neri, the wife of King Teti, aka the first pharaoh of Egypt's 6th dynasty. They found her burial shaft. There were coffins, mummies, artifacts, all that good stuff, dating back to the New Kingdom, meaning the Saqqara necropolis was used in the late period. But now, apparently, it was also used in the New Kingdom as well. That's news to us. That's huge. Perhaps the most questionable find, like I mentioned earlier, was a 4-meter long scroll. That was the 17th chapter of the Book of the Dead, my personal favorite chapter. That's a good one. Nice big character arc in that one. Funerary masks were also found, as well as miniature boats and 50 coffins. Again, this is the first time 3,000-year-old coffins were found in the Saqqara necropolis, so there's a lot of unknown in this one. Number 5. King Tut's Curse. The new Grand Egyptian Museum opened officially in 2021. And while that's quite recent, the contents displayed inside definitely are not. For the first time in history, King Tut's ancient belongings, the artifacts discovered with him, they will all be on display. Every single one of them. Prior to this museum being opened, we only saw 150 artifacts from his tomb. They took all these pieces on tour and whatnot, but now this museum will house thousands of artifacts. The final resting place for King Tut's collection. Sounds pretty dandy, right? That's over 7,000 square meters. What a display. But not all these belongings bring good feelings, apparently. Many believe we're putting King Tut's curse on full display at the same time. And those who attend the museum will be cursed forever. Yeah, personally, that's a pass for me. Walking through an ancient burial site, I don't know, I've seen Moon Knight. I'm not getting cursed today, my friends. No thank you. Number 4, the animal tombs. In part 2, I mentioned donkey remains found in St. Augustine. Remains that were left behind in an odd way, you could say that. This tomb was found in the Valley of the Kings. This one makes the donkey look much more tame of an event. For starters, this animal tomb was referred to by a number rather than a name. That's a big ancient Egyptian red flag. In 1906, Edward Ayrton discovered tomb KV50, KV51, and KV52, now collectively known as the animal tombs. Sounds a little cooler as well. When officials opened KV52, it was completely empty. That's not a good sign when finding tombs. It was empty except for 2 boxes, both black and undecorated. The larger of the 2 contained the remains of a monkey, and the smaller one was a chest that had 4 compartments and again, completely empty. So what happened here? Where everything went, we have no clue. At that point, you just turn around and not ask any questions. Yeah, I find an animal tomb? Buddy, see you later. Number 3, Unmarked Grave. This next one comes from an anonymous paranormal investigator. They didn't work at a cemetery, but they would often do walkthroughs. I'm all for hobbies, but leave families alone, maybe. I don't know, just an idea. Nobody wants a guy with a squeaky radio near their family's gravesite, I bet. One grave caught this paranormal investigator's attention. There were trinkets, glass beads, and small figurines almost. Things that didn't really look like toys, but kinda did. The most peculiar were a few tennis balls. What would be pretty jarring to see in the middle of a visit, a pile of tennis balls, they later learned that the first body to be buried in these ancient cemeteries were often dogs. A guard dog, yeah, to watch the human souls when they started to fill up said cemetery. Yeah, walking by a grave with bones and balls, don't be thrown off. Perhaps it was just an ancient good boy. Yeah, rest in peace, little dude. I'll bring a tennis ball next time. Number 2. Jeep tires. Heading over to Barrie, Ontario for this next one. Yeah, so close to home, but why? How could we possibly be talking about this, Taylor? All right, let me paint this picture for you first. Okay, here we go. You bury your loved one in Barrie, Ontario. It's a cold winter's night. It's February 2021. Caledon OPP gets a call that some dude is driving a Jeep around the cemetery. Yeah, guy's just doing burnouts, just testing the capabilities of his 4-wheel drive. Yeah, so you thought the Egyptian art was bad? Somehow even worse is going on in Barrie, Ontario. No gravestones were damaged, don't worry, nothing like that happened. But now we gotta wait 2 springs until these Jeep tire marks disappear. This is so stupid. A 32-year-old Brampton man was behind the wheel for this one. Figuratively and literally. Wasn't out to deface property or anything like that. He just wanted to go mudding. Just wanted to go take her for a rip. You know, grab some Timmies, go give her a rip. Classic. What's Ontario's slogan again? Yours to discover. Nice. No wonder the gravestones weren't damaged also. It was a Jeep. The thing probably just bounced off them. It was like going. The thing got stuck almost immediately also. The guy didn't get away with any of this. It was a complete waste of time. And number 1, unknown caller. Sometimes these messages from beyond the grave aren't in writing. Sometimes there's more that needs to be said. So I just had to include this story from user Summerfield85. I figured it's a good way to end this part 3. I've heard some creepy tales in my lifetime about people who have passed away, but this one, I'm not sure I want to believe it. I don't know, it's kind of eerie. A day after this user's mother passed away, they got a phone call from an unknown number. This was a time where caller ID simply just didn't exist, by the way. You couldn't just answer and be like, oh, it's so-and-so, bye. Things were a little harder to track down. Could have been a prank, yeah, but would somebody ever do this? I certainly hope not. The next day, after their mother passed, they received a call. And when they picked it up, it sounded like their mother was on the other end saying, Lolo, question mark? And then they said, Mom? And then the caller hung up and never called again. They recall the voice and how it was exactly like their late mother's voice and how Lo was a nickname she used to call her. The only person to ever call her that nickname as well. She had the same accent and everything. In the following weeks, items related to her mother began to flew across the room as well, which just reinforces this initial haunting call. Oh God. The amount of unknown calls I've ignored on purpose. Ooh. Sorry, Mom. Guys, those are the top 10 unsettling messages left behind on Tombstones, part 3. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and I'll see you next time. Bye. With a hair in my mouth. I just had to swallow it. Danielle, I just ate a hair. I just went right down. I felt it. This was the first ever found on the Iberian Peninsula in the northern... I can't talk, man. I'm hearing something over here. I'm like, what the f***? Like a bird? I'm like, there's something out there. Buildings. Buildings. I just grew up. There we go. I just inhaled dust or spit. Oh boy. It's gonna come back to me. I'm just like crying. I'm like, the first pharaoh of Egypt's 6th dynasty. R.I.P. Okay. Huh, my eyeliner's running. Oh no. Editors, if you can have me kind of fade out of existence there, that'd be kind of funny, I think. If you can. If not, I don't know. I don't know how any of this works. I don't know who's in there. I don't know where this goes. I don't know anything. I don't know how Bluetooth works. Don't even ask me about that.